Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is John Nerrell. This is my weekly Facebook Live. Today is Wednesday, October 10th, 2018, and so thankful for you all to be with me today as we talk today, which is show number 38, which is all about how your mess is your message. Just a couple of housekeeping tips as we get started. If you haven't had chance, or maybe you're a first timer watching this Facebook Live or checking out the video in my Learning Hub or my YouTube channel, you can go to my website at johnnerrell.com and click on the link for the free resource, which is 3 steps to creating your next advancement opportunity without feeling overwhelmed. You'll enter your email address into the form there. You'll confirm your email subscription, and then you'll get the workbook, as well as getting enrolled into my weekly email community where I email everybody 3 times, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. on a specific topic related to leadership and career. And so for today, I'm sharing something really personal with you, and that is about my mess and how that's become my message. So when we think about mess, maybe we often kind of go right to when we were a child and we think about how our parents may have scolded us in some way for dirtying things up. You know, we made a mess. We tracked mud in the house, or we made a mess at the table, whatever that might be. But that's exactly what a mess is, right? It's not clean. It's not tight. It's out of order. It's dirty. It's exactly that. It's messy. And yes, it's also complicated. And so as adults, we do our best. I truly believe this. We do our best to keep our messes at a minimum. But sometimes they come up. And when they do, well, yeah, it does. It gets a little sticky. And it may lead to some feelings inside of us, maybe feeling less than, or disappointing people that we care about, maybe even just disappointing people we don't necessarily care about. Maybe we feel like we didn't meet up to our standards, or maybe the standards that have been set for us by others, by those people who have a profound influence on our life. Maybe we just didn't meet the expectations that we had thought or we had hoped. So whether we're talking about your professional life or your personal life, we all have a mess. And so today, I'm going to peel back the curtain a little bit and give you a peek into my mess and what that mess has done for me and how it has helped me show up professionally and energetically in my career. So I want to take you back to a time when I was teaching, and I had created, along with a colleague of mine, this, what we thought was a really fantastic professional workshop for teachers in our district, in our area. And it was a lot of stuff that was involved. So as some of you may know, I'm a huge game show enthusiast, and I ended up creating a series of lessons that were loosely inspired by some game shows of the 1970s and 80s. And I was bringing them into my classroom along with a colleague of mine. And we were testing them out to see how well we were able to meet these academic standards and really help move not only student achievement, but also increase student engagement. And we found that for us, like, we had a lot of fun doing it, and our students had a lot of fun as well. And we thought, well, it's not doing us any good keeping it all to ourselves. Let's share it with other people. So we put on this professional development workshop one evening, and I want to say we had close to 50 people show up. And the feedback we got from that event was so inspiring and exciting and empowering. And you know how it is when you put all of your work and effort into something and it goes well, you can't help but feel excited about it. So while the kudos and the accolades were coming in from our attendees and also from some of our colleagues who attended as well, I didn't really hear much from leadership. And particularly the boss. And it bothered me. And I thought, we did something that not only showcased our school district, but it showcased our teacher talents and how we were doing what we thought was best for kids. And I don't even get a thank you. We didn't get an email or anything that just said, hey, great job. So 3 weeks go by and I hear from my boss. And it's an email that basically says, thank you so much for putting on a fun and entertaining workshop. And I was confused and I didn't really like it. And I thought, that's what I get. So it's 3 weeks late. You give me feedback 3 weeks late. And all this time and effort, and you tell me it was fun and entertaining? And what happened to informative and engaging and motivational and student-centered? I got none of that. And I was pissed. And so I ended up emailing a really, really good friend of mine that I was working with at the time. And we're still great friends today. And I emailed her and I said something like on my computer. I'm like, hey, just heard from the Big Cheese, said that the workshop was fun and entertaining. Whatever happened to informative and motivational and engaging? And way to go on sending that 3 weeks after the fact. And this was an intranet, so we had to actually click on the person's name to send it to them. I sent it to my boss. Yep, their names were right next to each other on the list, and I sent it to my boss. What I said when I clicked on his name instead of hers is not something appropriate for a G-rated Wednesday afternoon Facebook Live. But I did something really stupid after that, as if that wasn't stupid enough, right? I emailed him directly and said, don't open it. Well, that's like telling a kid, there's fresh baked chocolate chip cookies in the drawer. You can't have any. Of course they're going to want the chocolate chip cookies. And I was horrified. There was no way of backing out of that. So I leave. I go home. I go in the next day, and right before school starts, my principal calls me to his office. And he explains to me why he was getting ready to leave that day. And he got called to the superintendent's office because he was so offended and upset at the email I had sent. Now, when you have a good relationship with your immediate supervisor, they will go to bat for you. And that's exactly what he did. And he kind of calmed the situation down a little bit, tried to help my superintendent see a different perspective on things. And I'll be the first to admit, I was wrong for sending the email. I should never have done it. I shouldn't have even sent it to my friend. That should have been a conversation, and I never should have put anything like that into a work email. I think the worst thing I ultimately said was I referred to my boss as the Big Cheese, and that was about it. But it was the tone and the intent. And so things got really messy. I would pass him in the hallway. We wouldn't really say anything to each other. It was awkward. 6 months later, something happened. And he ended up coming down into my part of the wing, and he just started a conversation with me. And it was as if nothing had ever happened. Things had just kind of blown over. Two guys got it all out of their systems, and we were ready to kind of move forward. And I'm blessed that I had a really, really wonderful working relationship with him. But what I learned from my mess shaped me unbelievably to where I'm at today. Here's my message from my mess. I learned the value of feedback. I learned that feedback needs to be timely, relative, important, and it needs to be rich. It needs to be something that the other person values in hearing because they know the person giving them the feedback took the time, effort, and energy to construct some well thought out ideas about what they liked and perhaps what they didn't. I learned that if I need to communicate something to someone, it is far best to do it to them face to face, to have the conversation with them face to face when all possible. And that putting something in writing, it's really hard to decipher tone. And oftentimes the message can be misconstrued. I learned that as a leader, it is important for us to show up in ways that truly invite our staff into building a more professional relationship with them. That how we show up matters. How we show up in terms of how we recognize and appreciate and value our employees is key. And when we don't, working relationships suffer. And when working relationships suffer, there's a lack of trust. And when there's a lack of trust, as a leader, you have nothing. And as an employee, when you don't trust your leadership, you are often disengaged and often ready to start looking for another job. So those are the things that, because of my mess on that one day, when I knee-jerked a reaction and fired off an email to someone and sent it to the wrong person, that's become my message. If you've been following my emails and you've been following these Facebook Lives and reading my blogs, you know that how we show up matters. And that event, what I like to call my mess, is really a big part of my message because it shapes who I am as a professional, as a person, and as a leader, and as a leadership and career coach that helps professionals who are ambitious about their careers create what's next for them, what I like to call that next advancement opportunity. Without that event, I think the message is very, very different. I'm glad I had that event. I'm glad that happened. And I embraced that mess. Now, it's just a matter of moving that mess into the message and what that all looks like moving forward. So I encourage you, let me take a step back here all a second. I invite you to really think about what your mess is and think about it differently so it becomes your message. How do people know when they see you at work? You know that I oftentimes talk a lot about our core values. And when I talk about our core values, it's what resonates for us inside and how we show up over and over and over again, because when we consistently show up in that same way, it is about our core values. So whether you are someone who is reliable, dependable, you're a great communicator, maybe you're a connector, maybe you're someone who executes projects flawlessly, and maybe you need a little bit more help in terms of some of the strategic thinking that goes on before that. Maybe you're someone who has a mess because you've acted too quickly and maybe didn't see the whole picture of things, and now you know never to do that again. Whatever that is, whatever your mess is, I'm telling you, that's part of your message. That's part of who you are, not just as a professional, but as a person, as a human being that lives and breathes and makes mistakes and learns from them. And so whatever your mess is, embrace that as your message and own it. Own it as only you can. And when we think about how we show up in the workplace, that message that each of us has a direct impact on the people we work with and the company culture that in our own little cube or office or part of the organization, we help to shape, because we are better because of our mess. Yeah. So what happens if the boss doesn't let it blow over as it happened with you? Yeah. So those 6 months were pretty tense, right? And I knew him well enough to know that I just needed to give him his space. Sometimes relationships aren't repaired. Sometimes those stories don't always have a happy ending. And when that happens, yeah, for me, what I would just say in those kind of cases is you still have to decide how you want to show up. And if the situation can't be rectified or resolved, you still go into work, you do your job, you do it as best as you can, and you realize that we don't have control over how other people show up. And so it's kind of, I think, in a way, just really accepting the situation for what it is. And if that person is ever open to coming around or maybe opening up a conversation to be willing to have that. But sometimes we just have to accept the fact that relationships are, they're not able to be repaired. And when that happens, we certainly feel badly about it, but we can only do so much. And if we show up in a way and the person doesn't meet us in a same or similar way, there really isn't much else we can do about it. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for sticking around. And, lo and behold, we're almost at the 1:30 mark again. This time seems to fly by so quickly. I want to thank everyone for joining in today and letting me share a story about my mess and how it's become my message. And if you are so inclined, you have someone in your life with whom you trust, whether it be someone in your personal life or a work colleague with whom you have just an amazing amount of trust with. If you feel so inclined to kind of share a little bit about what your mess is and how it's turned into your message, have a conversation. I certainly know throughout the years as I've been able to talk more about it, it's taken some of the pressure off of me about always feeling like I've had to be perfect in every situation, and realize that I can make a mistake and I can learn from it. And so I'm very lucky in some ways that relationship was able to be repaired. But I'm even more blessed that experience has allowed to shape me and my work today. So thank you very much. I also want to tell you, I will not be with you live next week. I've got a meeting next week that's not going to be able to help me join you live next week, but we're going to do something a little bit different next week. So stay tuned with that. And I wish you a great rest of the week. So everybody, thanks so much. Be safe, be well, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.